This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 186. And I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. Buenos dias, bonjour, gumorron, bon dia, guten morgen, good morning. Hopefully everybody's having a good Monday morning. That's as many languages that I could come to mind. So hopefully I can hit on a couple of the good Telemark countries around the world. Hope everyone had a great weekend out there. I unfortunately was not able to go ski myself over the weekend, but I am heading out today with a friend, so I'm looking forward to getting some fresh turns at Alta Ski Area here in Salt Lake City, and should be good. But before we hop into today's topic, let's catch up on some newsroom and notes. You guys know the drill. Biggest thing I think this week is we're going to go appointment only on Saturdays. We've tried to keep it open the past few Saturdays to kind of see, and traditionally it's kind of been off and on. You know, some Saturdays are in past years. I mean, this is 9 years into this thing, so we've got some pretty good data, I guess, if you want to call it that, or just kind of learning what works and what doesn't. But we're going to be going to appointment only every single day except Sunday, and just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. I know sometimes that's tricky if you're traveling to town. You just want to kind of check out the shop, the museum items. I know that's a little bit more difficult. But if you know you're coming to town, you're listening to this, hit us up, customer service at freeheellife.com. Let us know you want to come by. We'll make it happen. We always love inviting people in to come check it out, walk around, scope it out. But like I've said in previous podcasts, really what I'm trying to do this year is really give that one-on-one attention to people that are coming in. They're looking for a boot fit. They've got questions about maybe some used gear, mount drop-offs, tunes, all that good stuff. And a lot of times it takes a significant amount of time in the grand scheme of things when there's only a few of us. And so this has been a really good thing for us. So overall, really happy about how this has been going this year. I wanted to just let you know about that little change on Saturdays. We're going to be focusing a lot on our demos, getting those out the door. I was excited to see people taking out the protectors this week. I know we've got some on the hill over this past weekend, and that's super great. And that's what we're looking for, getting people out on our skis, getting them out on the boots that we sell, the bindings we sell, giving them an opportunity to go experience that. And I know with the holidays, a lot of people are coming to Salt Lake to do some skiing. So like I said, customer service at freeheellife.com if you need to connect with us, or you can go to the service tab on the website to see what services we offer, both online and in person. And we'll take care of you. We will be closed for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, so our small staff can spend time with their families. That's super important to me. And I really want everybody to have time with their families during the holidays. So I think Christmas Eve is actually Sunday, if I remember right. So we're never open on Sundays anyways, but Christmas Day, I believe, is on Monday. So we will not be here that particular day, and we don't have any, we've already blocked it out, so you can't book appointments, but we'll be in the day after Christmas. And also, I think on the 1st of January, we'll also be kicking off 2024 with everyone and open then. Lots of new listings in the used gear section of the website. Be sure to check that out. Skis, boots, and bindings. We're always putting up new stuff. If you're looking to do consignment, feel free to hit us up. Whether you're out of state or in Utah and you want to come in, again, go to that service tab for a consignment drop-off. If you have questions about maybe you're out of state but interested in doing that with us, people ship us gear all the time to sell just because we've got good outreach and a good platform that allows a lot of eyeballs to get on it. And we would love to help you out. So same email as before, just shoot us a message and we would be happy to get you the consignment information and see if it's a good fit for you. Midwest Telefest, February 9 through 11 at the Porcupine State Park in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Sponsored by Higher Love, Freeheel Life, Porcupine Mountain Ontonagon Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Make sure to get more info at midwesttelefest.org. Super psyched about that. And we're going to meander our way out there and try to do some skiing at some fun little spots. And then, of course, World Telemark Day on March 2nd, 2024. If you need details on that before I do a podcast about it, email podcast@freeheellife.com. If you need help about how to put together a meetup in your area, your resort, wherever you're planning on getting down and doing some telemark turns that day on March 2nd. And I'm just going to keep talking about that until we get there. I'm sure it's going to go fast. I can't believe we're already to the holiday season. And it always, once it kicks off, it just starts burning by. So the other day I had the opportunity to teach a friend how to telemark ski for the first time. And I absolutely love sharing the turn with my friends, but it's been a while since I've gone out with someone that has never made drop knee turns before and starting from scratch. That's such an interesting experience because you really get to go back in time and remember how it was for you, try some different things. And it definitely reminded me of a bunch of things that I wanted to share with you as we head into the holiday season when we're spending time with friends and family. If you're interested in seeing me do a telemark technique breakdown of this, you can become a blue or black level member of my YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Freeheel Life, and listen to the commentary as I watch it and break it down as I'm skiing with my friend and teaching him. I did the commentary obviously after, so we can watch the video together, and I'm doing the commentary, sort of pointing things out. And it's obviously a beginner telemark skier, so if that's of value to you, I'd love for you to scope out that video. It's a new type of video I've been doing on the YouTube channel for the members, and super psyched about it. It's a cool way for me to be able to have videos up, talk about them as I'm sort of evolving some of this content that I'm putting out, and hopefully you'll like it. On that note, YouTube memberships, we've got green, blue, and black level members. You can check out the breakdown on the YouTube channel. That's a great way to support me and what I'm doing and the content that I'm putting out, rather than doing like a Patreon or something like that. I'm putting up stuff every week. There's plenty of free stuff there as well, just so you know. I'm constantly looking to break down a lot of the free videos into playlists, whether it's old telemark movies that I've made, old telemark movies like old NATO movies, North American Telemark Organization stuff that I've been allowed to put up as well. There's just some fun stuff on there, and obviously a lot of quick content as well. I've been putting a lot of shorts up, shredding groomers, bumps, trees, that sort of thing. So either way, go to the YouTube channel, check it out. I would love that. YouTube.com/Freeheel Life. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I would love to keep up with you on the YouTube channel as we're growing that. And if you're a YouTube watcher of Freeheel Life or a member, thank you so much. I've been gaining a lot of people over the last couple months, and it's been exciting to see it grow. So I wish I would have done more many years ago, but I'm finally getting around to it using the old YouTube channel, and it's been a lot of fun. So today's podcast, I am calling Giving the Gift of Telemark, your guide to sharing the turn, all based on this experience I had with this friend of mine. And I wanted to go back and put together a simple list of some key points that I remember as I was sharing telemark with my friend, along with some new things I learned from this particular experience. Because like I said, it's been a while since I've been able to sort of share it with a brand new person. And I thought this would be a helpful thing for you. Like I said, if you're in Salt Lake, you need to demo stuff. We'll talk a little bit about gear here in a minute. Definitely book an appointment on the website. We'd love to get you some equipment if you want to show somebody how to telemark ski. I guess, the first thing I want to say about that too is before I get into these points, when is a good time to teach someone how to telemark ski? I mean, I'm of the mindset whenever you can, it's a good time, right? But sometimes people are a little unsure about when to go telemark. I always say telemark is great. Having a shop, for instance, if it's a big snow year, all the telemark skiers are coming in. If it's a bad snow year, a lot of people are looking for something to do because they get bored. High pressure, not a lot of POW. They're looking for something different. That's a good time to maybe pick up telemark, give it a try. And it's always a good time if you're bored of your local mountain. So in this particular case, a little background, my friend lives in the Midwest. He lives, you're talking 300 vert, I think his local hill, something like that. He's got some young kids and was interested in sort of opening up the mountain. I've talked about this for years about why telemark is going to continue to grow in places like the Midwest because the terrain is smaller. People aren't just going to move. Yes, they may be able to travel to Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, California, and get this bigger terrain. But most people are going to stay where they live. They like it there. Their work is there. And they're looking for something that opens up the mountain, opens up the possibilities, and gives them a challenge. And that was this particular friend of mine, just wanted to open it up. And, while his kids are learning how to ski, this is a great time for him to challenge himself and to learn something new. So the first point I want to bring up is assess the level of your friend or family member before you hit the hill. This is the biggest thing, right? Because we don't want to jump in the deep end with someone and not understand where they're coming from. And I think that's really important as we're trying to share something with somebody. You want to make it as enjoyable as possible. Now, I'm always of the mindset telemark is difficult. And even this experience with my buddy, we talked about it during and afterwards. And I was telling him how funny it was because some people give me a lot of grief about the fact that I always say telemark is hard. And that's a bad marketing thing. And he was laughing at me because we were heading down. To go back to the car at the end of the day, and I told him that, and he's like, "No, it is hard, but that's what's good about it." And I think that's an important thing. But assess the level of that friend or family member that you're going to take up. Are they coming from alpine skiing? Are they intermediate, beginner, expert? Are they coming from snowboarding and they've never skied before? Sometimes that happens. Then, and that's a unique one too, because you're coming from if they've never skied before and they're coming from snowboard, you're going from a single snow sliding plank, if you will, and going to independent foot movement. And that's going to inform you a lot about how to help somebody learn this, because you may have to go back and sort of do some other basic motions to sort of get them used to it. Again, athleticism. Are they good at just being athletic, or maybe not? I don't know. There's a wide variety of people. We want to make sure we really, really understand that, because that's going to, like I said, inform you about how you can help this individual see the mountain, see what they're learning, and kind of go from there. So point number 2 is make sure they have gear that's going to help them enjoy the experience. Match it correctly to the person if possible. Now, not everybody is going to have access to the latest skis with NTN bindings, NTN boots. In a lot of cases, like I always say, I'm an advocate for used equipment if you can find it. but there's different levels of used gear. I mean, you could find something at the thrift shop. Not to say you can't find a good deal at the thrift shop, but you might find something that's like 3-pin and leather, and that's their first experience with Telemark. Again, you've already assessed sort of their level, athleticism. Try to be as kind as possible if you have the ability to find gear that's going to match this person. I think that's going to go a long way. You want to make sure that they have gear that's going to help them have a good experience, because of course we want them to try again and again and again. And the difficulty when you're on, and I never say crappy gear, there's just different eras of equipment. I mean, crappy gear is broken stuff, right? There's no, just because something's old doesn't mean it's crappy. And just on that note, like I've had really good experiences teaching, on like a G3 Targa, like a cable binding. And sometimes there's an argument that that's actually easier for people to learn because it's so neutral, whereas if you're going right to NTN, that might be difficult. Again, one thing you have to keep in mind too is what your personal preference is. Although you may want to push that in the direction of the person, try to think of who you're sharing this experience with and make sure that you're not just, giving them something because you're like, well, this is it, Try to look at the whole scenario and see if it is a good fit. Also, gear availability is the biggest thing. So try to do your best to match up what you have available to you to get this person on. Like I said in a couple podcasts ago, having a good fitting boot, I think, is a number one priority. Then worry about the bindings to kind of match that, because are you NTN, are you 75 millimeter? And then, whatever skis. Try not to give them like 210s and leather and pins. That's my 2 cents on that. So point number 3 is I want you to start on some flat snow, base area, not even on a lift yet. And side note, I know I'm talking primarily about going to a resort. Teaching Telemark in a resort is clutch, in my opinion, because it's the reps, the ability to go up a lift, come down a lift, ski down, get on a lift, go again. Can you learn Telemark in a backcountry scenario? Absolutely. But you're going to have to hike for it. And I don't always, it depends how much time you got. If you want to hike every lap to go up, or, I guess there's certain scenarios, like maybe you've got a small hill, off the side of the golf course. I mean, I remember when I learned how to snowboard. I remember the first time I had a snowboard when I was a kid, there was a hill like in the neighborhood, right? And we all hiked it, and you strapped in and you went down. It was great. But I'm talking about a typical scenario where you're going to get gear, take your friend to a resort, and you're going to do it. So the base area is a perfect place to teach them a couple things. Number one, how to step in and fasten their bindings properly. There's a variety of, anyone who's telemarked for a long time knows there's a variety of stepping into a binding. Most are not true step in. Some are true step in, but if they have brakes, it might be a little trickier. Like, I'm not a big fan of 22 Designs brakes. I don't like the positioning of them, and I think they're a real pain in the ass to step into. So I run a leash on them. Love the binding, don't like the brakes. Rotofella free rides and freedoms. I think the brake position is so much better and easier to get into. 75 millimeter. I mean, think of anyone who's out there that's tellied for a long time. Think of how many times we've kneeled down. You have no brake. You've got a cable binding. You've got to kneel down, get your toe in, reach back, put that heel lever on, lever it onto the boot, all while keeping your skis in place so they don't slide away. Maybe you're crossing over one ski over the other to sort of keep it from running away from you, all this stuff. So I think that's literally the very first thing is be kind and take this person to a flat area and teach them how to step in and out of the bindings, get it on and off, just from a courtesy perspective, also safety perspective. If they need to take it off for some reason, and it's obviously part of the deal, and you want to start from the very basics. Here's the other thing I love about that flat terrain is you can show them the basic shape of a Telemark stance. So have them practice doing a Telemark stance, keeping in mind the distance of their feet apart between the skis, and also that heel to toe separation. Super important. And when you're on flat ground, you're not getting as much movement, obviously, because you're not going down a hill. I think one of the most difficult things is teaching someone the shape and the look of kind of where you want to be in the Telemark stance in order to make a turn while you're going downhill. That's super tough because there's motion and then your balance is off. And again, there's two scenarios. Like I said, if you're coming from alpine skiing, you're used to having two independent feet moving. You're not used to how much you can lean forward into the boot, for instance, because your heels are going to come up. A snowboarder is learning independent foot movement and all of those things as well. So on that flat ground, help talk them through the basics of all this. And I know I'm maybe over explaining this because you've already assessed how much information this person probably needs, but take the time to give them the information. And here's the other thing is once they've sort of got the distance, maybe have them move from one Telemark stance into the other while they're sliding it on snow, again, on flat ground. Super important. And I think that's always where I'm going to begin. This particular experience that I had with my buddy, we didn't have to spend a lot of time. I mean, it was like, got off the lift, took a gondola up, so we had to put our skis down anyways to get into them in this flat terrain area, and it was perfect because we went over all that stuff, and then okay, we're going to go on the lift. And that kind of leads to my next point. We want to start looking for beginner terrain. And when I say beginner terrain, I'm talking very minimal incline. And I would say personally, whatever level people are at, I'm probably whatever level people are at, I think it's important to get at least one run where it's a green run. The beginner slope. If you've got like a beginner slope, I can think of beginner slopes at most of the resorts in Salt Lake, for instance. And yeah, if you're an expert skier, you're looking at this and you're like, that is going to be so boring. But that's exactly what you need, because we want to just add a little bit of motion, a little bit of incline, so that now we can implement what we just showed our friend or family member on a downward slope. That you're letting the angle of the slope help with the speed. That's why you want that. Maybe that seems obvious to everyone out there, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard the horror stories. I've seen that. I've had friends that literally when they learn to ski, people just chuck them on this, terrain that they can't handle. And then they hate skiing. And, like I said, most people are coming from some sort of snow sport activity, coming to Telemark. just as a general statement on the thing. But let's give people a good experience with this stuff, so that it's a craft. They need to pay into this thing. They're going to have to keep doing it. So let's make it a good experience from the beginning. So now that we found this basic terrain, here's the very first run for me. And I still do this. And I've talked about this on the podcast, is I like to warm up with some P-turns, some good old parallel turns. And it's to understand the skis. And for this new person, it's to help them not only understand whatever skis they're using, it's to also feel what it's like to have the Freeheel. What do the boots feel like? Again, one of the things you talk about a little bit as you get into this is where to pressure the boot. You still want pressure on the front tongue of the boot. But if you're coming from an alpine boot and where your heel is locked in, flexing at the ankles, bending the knees, pressuring the front of the boot in an alpine binding is much different because you can push on that boot and your heel's not going to come up. Well, like I said, you add some motion going downhill, and someone that hasn't been on Freeheel gear, it's going to be a little wonky at the beginning. It's going to be a little tricky. So take a quick warm-up run, do some P-turns, get the skis under your feet, understand what the Freeheel feels like, and then we can kind of move on to the next thing. What I think is the most important thing, and I was reminded about this with my buddy, ditch the poles. Okay? I kind of forgot, I haven't taught like a Telemark lesson in a ski school for so many years. And there's all these, drills, things that you can do. And I kind of just forgot because I'm just used to grabbing a set of poles and here I go. Either ditch the poles completely, or there's a way you can have them hold the poles. I'm going to explain what you're going to have them do first, but they can sort of hold them out like a tray in front of them on the downhill side of the slope. I'm not going to get too detailed about all the details of that stuff, but that's why I think having no poles is better. You keep your hands out in front of you. They're not waving around. And I was reminded about this because poles, for a lot of people, they don't have, even coming from Alpine, they don't have the timing of using poles down. And then when they're bringing that into this new Telemark gear, those poles really just get in the way. They mess a lot of the timing up, and they act as a crutch in a lot of circumstances when people get off balance. What we want to do is get them to not have the poles so they can find these balance points as we are learning the Telemark stance, the Telemark turn, and helping them out with that. So ditch the poles. Very first thing, so on to the next point. The very first thing that I'm gonna, let's just assume no poles. I'm going to put them, we're on very mellow terrain. We're on that nice green slope. It's pretty mellow. I'm going to start usually, and I always try to find places where there's not a lot of people. You're not dodging people. I know this is the gift of Telemark. I'm telling you to go share it with somebody, and I'm telling you to go do it the busiest time of the year. So you're probably going to be dodging people everywhere at busier resorts. But if you can, find a beginner slope with not a lot of people on it. And I want you to start on one side, and you're going to have them traverse the slope, holding the shape of the Telemark stance, learning balance, the foot distance we talked about on the flats, and have them try to hold that stance as they get across and stop once they get to the other side of the slope, or a determined stopping point. Maybe you can even demonstrate it, kind of set a track and then have them follow that track and come to you and stop at that point. But the whole goal is to get it, I call it the safety zone. The Telemark stance is the new safety zone for a lot of people. If you're coming from a parallel ski stance on an alpine setup, your safety zone is to go parallel. What we want to do is show the distance of the feet in a Telemark stance and show them that that is the safety zone. Now, that creates other situations because as they're traversing, they're starting to learn that if you don't have that good separation between the front heel of the boot and the toe of the back boot, and that's, I highly suggest going and watching this Telemark technique breakdown on YouTube. Become a member and watch it because I think it's like 15 plus minute video. I go through this and show the visual of it. But these traversing techniques just really get you to get the feet in the right place so you feel safe going to the Telemark stance. And when you feel off balance, you go to Telemark stance, not parallel stance. There's plenty of need for knowing how to do a good parallel turn and bringing your feet parallel. That's not really the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make is we're trying to get our brain for this new person to feel safe when you drop a knee. But there's that little space when you're in between. You see this a lot. You're coming from alpine. They put the heel up, but their feet are really close together. And you don't have a good athletic base at that point. And it's very, very unstable. And you're probably going to swoop that foot back into parallel. Okay. So once you have that stable stance and you move from, once you have the stable stance across from a traverse where you traverse in the stance and then stop. Move from stopping at the end of the traverse. Once this person's comfortable, you can see they've got the distance of the feet figured out. They're feeling comfortable going to the Telemark stance. What I want you to do is have them stand up out of the stance at the end, and rather than stopping, they start using a snowplow position and use that as a tool to transition and to turn the skis to go the other direction. Okay. Once they come across the fall line, have them drop into a Telemark stance again and continue to traverse to the other side like they were just doing. So we're taking the full stop out of the end of the traverse and we're utilizing a snow plow to turn. There's another YouTube video I've done, free video, talking about big toes, better turns. Talks a lot about this idea, the snow plow, of using that uphill big toe to go to initiate the turn. And this is why we are doing that. Okay. Snow plow is a great way to check speed, feel in control, feel balanced. It's familiar, especially for the people coming from alpine skiing. Most people know how to do a snow plow, and you turn across the fall line and then you go back into that familiar stance across the entire slope. So the next point is, if they can get the hang of the snowplow transition, then have them try coming fully parallel at the end of the traverse and then using a parallel turn instead of the snowplow to make the transition. So we're starting to whittle it out little by little. Quick recap, we're going to traverse in the stance, full stop. Then we're going to do the same types of traverse, but we're going to use a snowplow to turn ourselves the other direction and go into another Telemark stance. And then we're slowly going to work out the snowplow, and we're just going to stand up to parallel out of the Telemark stance and use a familiar parallel turn to get us going the other direction. And once you feel comfortable and you've crossed the fall line again, Now you're dropping it into a telemark stance. Okay. So the ultimate, and what I experienced in this particular scenario, it was awesome because I had an advanced alpine skier, my buddy who I'm teaching, and he was great. And we didn't even do the snowplow thing at all because he was comfortable coming to a parallel position and making that the way that he transitioned to the turn to begin the traverse to the other side of the slope. So again, that assessment at the very beginning, the very first thing I talked about is assessing what they're doing. This is going to be very, very helpful for you to know, like, hey, you don't need to add in a lot of BS that you don't need to use. Let's just, let's get to the point. Where is their athleticism and what do they know? And then you don't have to whittle so much out. It's unnecessary. Could you go back and use it as a technique drill or something like that? Sure. But we want to utilize our time wisely. So the ultimate part of this is we want to slowly work out the parallel at the end of the traverse and moving towards telemark stance into telemark stance. Okay. Now, these 10 points these are very, very rudimentary guidelines. Okay. Because you're looking at all these things, you're trying to help them understand the shape of a telemark turn, what it looks like, what the basic stance is, but there's dynamics going on, What are the snow conditions? Are they comfortable with speed? What does the terrain look like? Did you end up on too steep of a slope and you need to go to a little more mellow area? And the best part, so those are the 10 points that I wanted to go through. Ultimately, and this was a great experience for me because ultimately I wanted to share the turn. And the point that I'm always looking for is the point that bonds most of telemark skiers together. It's the moment you first realize you linked one telemark turn to another telemark turn with no pause in between. That is where the money is. Because once you're linking telemark turns, that is why this is so rad. It's why it's so fun. And we got there day one with my buddy, and it was so cool. It definitely required me to listen, not add in extra stuff, and try to make good terrain decisions, ditching the poles like I didn't do at the beginning. And that's why I wanted to share all this because it was so awesome. I was pumped. I was excited because I got to share something that I care about immensely with somebody else, and I got to see it click for them, and I got to see them link telemark turns day number one. That is awesome. That's what it's all about. So as we head into the holiday season, maybe you want to gift a friend or a family member a day with your extra set of tele gear, or come demo some stuff from us, or find some used gear. Maybe somebody's getting their first set of telemark gear for Christmas. I don't know, whatever the scenario is. Hopefully these 10 points will walk you through a basic understanding of how you can look at this to share the telemark turn with other people that you know and give you some guidelines, because I want you to feel how I felt at the end of that day, which was stoked. I absolutely loved watching someone link telemark turns. Day number one, nothing like it. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast today. Be sure to sign up for the mailing list if you have not. I'm going to be trying to connect with everybody a little bit better on that. As always, there's so much to do. So if you're not getting emails from me, I'm sorry. But I'm going to try and pick that up as we get into the new year. Let you know what's going on. You guys are getting all the info. You're on the podcast. You're listening to the podcast. That's what's up. But mailing list is a really good way to get all of the content I'm putting out. Let people know what's going on. And I would love that. You can always head over to Instagram too. Always posting stuff there at Freeheel Life. And hit me up at podcast@freeheellife.com as well. I always love hearing from folks. Let me know what you thought about this podcast. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'm open. Shoot it over. And if somebody uses these and goes out and shares the Telemark turn with somebody and maybe uses some points or all of the points, I would love to hear about it. Tell me about your experience, and we'll keep it rolling here. So until next week, I will see you after the holiday. Spread Telemark always, my friends. Have a great Monday. See you next time.